Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today's guest isn't a veteran himself, but his life, his work, and his family story are undeniably tied to service, legacy, and forward-thinking leadership. Tim Wofford is a name many in the health and wellness sector will recognize. He's a seasoned entrepreneur behind SmartBody, a company pioneering wellness clubs focused on hyperbaric oxygen therapy to relieve chronic affections and promote long-term physical performance. But what really drew me to Tim wasn't just his business acumen. It was the quiet pride he carries as the father of two military officers. One son is an Army Ranger trained at West Point, and the other is an Air Force Academy graduate who now pilots aircrafts for our own nation. The kind of dedication runs deep in his family. Tim has launched global retail giants like Sam's Club and Staples across 20 countries. Still today, he's channeling the same global mindset into human health, pushing boundaries, asking better questions, and turning innovative ideas into meaningful care. Despite his international success, he describes himself simply, just a normal guy trying to do good. That humanity paired with the decades of grit, vision, makes for a powerful conversation, especially when you consider the parallels between building businesses and building warriors. So whether you're a veteran looking to redefine your next mission or an entrepreneur navigating your own life transitions, you're going to take away a lot from this episode. Tim, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those kind words, Adam. And I will try to live up to them today.
Brother, first question for everybody is a little different for you because you're not a veteran, but where did you grow up and what inspired your perspectives on service, given that both your sons pursued military careers?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma, grew up there. I'm getting older these days. I won't tell you what that number is, but it's adding up. And I got another one coming like this weekend. So
Well, happy early birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's Saturday. So it starts with a 6, man. It's a little scary, okay? But so be it. Hey, I try to act like I'm 25 still. I try to have the energy of a 25, and my heart and my head has got lots of energy, as we'll talk about here in a minute. So when I can realize those things, I feel like I've added some value to anyone around me. So, but back to your question. So grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mom and dad were great salt of the earth people. I have one sister, so the four of us were pretty much in the same house for that whole time. In fact, Mom passed recently, but that's when I sold it. So she was in that thing for 60-something years. Tulsa's a great little town to grow up in. It's very stable. It's the Bible Belt, yada, yada. I just kind of outgrew it. You know, I was lucky. We didn't grow up with much money, but my parents provided and made it all work. And I was a good athlete. So I was lucky enough to get invited to go to a small college preparatory high school. Okay, so you had to get in. You had to have enough gray matter to pass the testing and stuff. There's only 300 that go to this school, 9 through 12, the high school years. So it's tiny. You know, you have a good student-teacher ratio, and all that was cool. But I really, because I was an athlete, I was the fastest white boy you ever saw, right? So I wanted to go to the 6A behemoth football powerhouse that was Nathan Hale High School, the Rangers. And little did I know that would come back in my life later, right? So I wanted to go there, and yet I was convinced by the athletic director of this Holland Hall High School, South Tulsa, a fellow named Charlie Brown, for real, Charlie Brown. Best decision I ever made. I said, yes, I'll go there. I passed the test. Our handshake deal was, if you can get me a college scholarship so I don't have the burden of my parents having to come up with all that cabbage, then I will put this school on the map athletically. You just watch. And so we carried through on that deal. I set a couple of national high school records in baseball all time. And so the next thing you know, I've got dozens and dozens of full ride offers from colleges that didn't even see me play. They just, it had to do with stolen bases. So they knew, oh, this guy must be fast, good player. And I was in the back of Sports Illustrated in that Faces in the Crowd thing. So that helped, further. It was the issue where, you remember Sugar Ray Leonard beating Duran, and that was the No Moss fight when he kind of quit. That was the cover of the issue.
I got
June of
that's a little
1980.
before my time. So
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Take my word for it. It's true.
it was about
This is
5 years before I'd come into this world.
this is before internet, and Sports Illustrated was the place to be. That was the dominant de facto sports information coming out, based in Chicago. It was Time Life Publishers, I think. So anyway, it was a big deal, and that kind of moved me on my way. So at that point, I could have gone and signed to probably play pro ball, but I wanted to get on with my education and a business career, and that's what I wound up doing. But Tulsa's my hometown.
So what drew you to business?
I just had kind of I'm a spiritual guy, and I just have a belief, and I give a lot of credit to my parents. I mean, it was kicking and screaming at the time, but never missed a Sunday morning, never missed a Sunday night, never missed a Wednesday night. So, in the summertime, it's nice outside. You're playing wiffle ball with your buddies, and the parents say, "Come in here, get cleaned up. We got to go to church. It's Wednesday at 5:00," and it's like, it's killing you. But that has served me well. That puts a belief in you that you fall into and you call back on in hard times. You should also do it in good times. But anyway, that, I guess, has instilled and makes me a lot of what I am. And my belief coming out of that, I've got a lot of philosophies, but my belief coming out of that is that if the good Lord gives you some abilities, whether it's physical, mental, whatever it is, you better make the most of them. And that's a way of honoring Him. It's kind of like saying thanks and look, watch me go. Just keep a hand on me so that I stay out of trouble. And so I was getting that. What's that?
I said I was going to say recognizing His plan for you. And
oh yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm still a churchgoer. I still say my prayers. I feel like all good things that happen to me are because of that. I feel like the tough things are to teach me lessons and to say, look, I'll show you. Don't get a big head here on these things. And so it keeps me grounded. It's a good thing. But that philosophy says if you're given an ability, make the most of it. So it happened to be athletics, and to a point where it wasn't. I mean, I went to the University of Arkansas. So we went down. That was the old Southwest Conference. So we would go down and play the University of Texas in Austin. And their starting rotation had a couple of guys that are named Roger Clemens and Calvin Shirley. These guys are like, should be in the Hall of Fame sort of thing. Yeah. And you realize that I just can't hit a ball coming in at 98 miles an hour with a tail on it. It's just not in the cards for me. I could do everything else pretty well. I was real fast, had an arm, smart baseball player. And then Lou Holtz, who coached the Razorback football team, said,
let's talk about Lou Holtz for what he really is, the Notre Dame head coach.
Yeah.
I grew up in Southern Indiana. I'm a huge Irish fan. So Lou Holtz is like way up here for me.
Well, he spent a minute in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and it's a stepping stone thing. And I guess Notre Dame was probably after that, would be my guess. I don't know that to be fact. Yeah. But that's how coaches go. You evolve and stair step up. And he did well everywhere he'd been. But his offer to me was to renounce my full ride baseball scholarship, come make the football team as a punt returner, which is like kamikaze work. That's before all the stuff. And we're on the world's hardest AstroTurf, by the way. Back then, it was like a little slip of carpet on top of asphalt. And my knees are still barking to this day because the baseball field and the football field were like that. So I did not do that, but I always wonder, could I have, should I have? Because the guy that comes to mind is Pat Tillman, who was a Green Beret or something, and he was a
Ranger. He was a Ranger.
Was he a Ranger? Okay, so he's all-pro St. Louis Cardinals. And then when something comes up, he says, I'm going to serve my country, and goes and does that, and then it gets shot and killed over there. But that was like the ultimate to me. So here's a guy who kind of he's a good guy to pattern, Yeah. So anyway, I did not play football. I did some practice and this and that. I saw the baseball career through. But here's the best thing. I got my education. I got out in 4 years, and I was on my way then into business. And I thought, okay, That's my signal from up above that says you've worn out your physical abilities that I gave you. Now it's time to use that head on your shoulders. And so I got right into it. I graduated, and then the following Monday, I was at a desk, Dillard's department store corporate office, as the buyer of all like furniture and white goods and all that stuff.
And
so
you took this to the next level. You've lived in 20 countries, if I'm not mistaken, and helped launch some of the biggest name brand businesses around the world. So what does that landscape look like? Like what even is that? What does that mean? You help launch Sam's Clubs and fucking other, what else did you launch? Sam's Club, Staples. How many other big household names that we know did you have a hand in launching?
Well, there's one that a lot of your listeners won't know, but it's the original wholesale club. So if you think of like a Costco, mm-hmm. and then even before then it was Price Club out west. Okay. Saul Price started that. That concept came from a German thing that was called Metro. And then they had an offshoot sister division called Macro, Makro. And they operated those large, this would be like 120,000 square feet, so 12,000 square meters space. And you had to have a business, and you could come in and buy, 50-pound bags of rice, and you had to buy 200 rolls of toilet paper at a time. That was the original wholesale club concept. So this American dude, Saul Price, goes to Germany, copies it, takes it back to Southern Cal, and the rest is history. So today that looks like Costco, Sam's Club, and then up in the Northeast, a place called BJ's Wholesale Club.
We have BJ's here.
Yeah. To a degree, that's right. They came on down the coast.
Yeah.
To a degree, it's Menards, who's the big race car guy, racing teams. But that's a big similar deal that added lumber up in, Minneapolis or Wisconsin or somewhere up there where it's cold. Anyway,
for me to go.
No. I did 10 years in Boston. That's enough snow for this lifetime, right? No, thank you. So let's see. Where was I saying? So I just got lucky. Look, I was a guy that was smart enough, but that old phrase, like sometimes don't open your mouth and confirm that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about to these senior guys, right? So
fake it until you make it.
Yeah. I just was a sponge and listen to everything, because I'm in the room with Sam Walton, richest man in the world. And then you go over to Staples, and it's Mitt Romney, whose Bain Capital was the money behind Staples. And then it's Tom Stenberg, who's the Harvard Fulbright Scholar Business School, the guy that invented generic foods, a can of white corn that just said corn on it, that sort of thing. So these are stud businessmen, and I'm thinking, man, I'm just a normal guy from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, because that was the town neighboring Tulsa. And I got lucky here, but I've got to make the most of it. And so I did. I did all that stuff. I did corporate stuff for about 12 to 15 years, let's say. And then you realize, well, there's a lot of agendas going on. Sometimes you got a backstabber. I suppose this is true in any large profession. Now, I happened to look up. I saw that there's 1.277 million soldiers in our military. That's all. That's all of the classes. But that's a large organization that's very regimented with rank and decorum and stuff. So I'm sure this stuff goes on in there. It goes on everywhere. A lot of people call it politics. They say red tape. Well, man, it is rampant in corporate America, because somebody wants your job and they're willing to do anything to get it, even if it kills you and they throw you on the side of the road. So that's kind of not my style. I'm in it for the team. And if I can leave this earth and have made a difference, then that's what I was trying to do. So I at some point I left Staples. So it was a Dillard's Dallas, Walmart, Sam's, Bentonville, Arkansas, and then on to Boston for the Staples deal. Mm-hmm. So as part of that, they liked the work I was doing. They sent me to London to open Staples UK, which I did. And then they sent me on to Germany. I was in Hamburg and said open a thing called Maxi Papier, Big Paper, which was a joint venture of Staples America and these German guys. They both worked. And then at some point, these Dutch people say the Dutch people are the Germans that goes all the way back to Saul Price and that whole wholesale club environment. When you when you do enough of those, you can only put so many stores in a place. Let's say Thailand, for example, because that was my first assignment. I lived in Bangkok 2 years. That's a whole nother podcast.
I'm sure it is.
I lived in a lot of the X-rated places in my life. Hong Kong, Rio, Amsterdam. I got lots of stories. I could write a couple of books. That's probably where I make my money, is writing books. But I'm a shitty writer, so
Yeah.
Anyway, they saw what we were doing in Europe, and they said, we don't want to get left behind. And many times, like when they had 15 of these warehouse clubs in the country of Thailand, you've basically filled it up. Back then, it was 42 million people. Bangkok had 16 million of them, so it was pretty much one big city and a lot of jungle. And so they said, we either want to open a CompUSA computer superstore clone or an office supply store clone like a Staples or Office Depot. And so I was flown to Amsterdam. I did like this week-long interview process. I had this Einstein-looking guy that gave me an IQ test that lasted like 3 days. And they said, yeah, he's pretty smart. But everybody else I'm up against is like way older than me with a much better resume and more experience. But divine intervention, I won. So that's how I started embarking on this international thing. Because Staples sent me to Europe and I got noticed, then these Dutch guys said, hey, maybe we better poach him and let's get him busy for us. So the progression was like this, Adam. It was Bangkok was first, and then I went over to Portugal, lived in Lisbon and did that. Then it was over to Spain and did Barcelona. And then it was up to Amsterdam to round out the Netherlands, Holland. And then over to Rio, lived nearby the Christ statue, up on the mountain up there. And then it was Hong Kong and on and on and on. Buenos Aires, Argentina. So what I would basically do is, now I'm still married at the time with kids, right? So it's a little difficult because on one hand, I'm living my dream life and they're flying me first class and I'm getting paid like a king and I'm able to go and start these businesses. So I'm getting my chops on entrepreneurial stuff and raising money because I had to go back to Holland and get the funds secured to do this because they could have put it towards something else that was probably a little safer bet. But it worked, and it worked, and it worked, and it worked because it was a global concept. Everybody wants to pay less for paper clips and paper and ink cartridges and yada, yada. So that really worked. Because our competition in a place like Bangkok was some guy who got a phone call and he had some paper clips in a warehouse, so we would throw them on a tuk-tuk or a motorcycle and drive them to these people, and the price was different every time, and maybe he had some, maybe he didn't. And his warehouse has got a dirt floor, and your typical third world country. They were in Vietnam, they were in Malaysia, they were in all over those kind of places. Southeast Asia was just killing it for them in a good way because the rising middle class and the inefficiency of distribution on anything. It could be rice, it could be meat, it could be Coca-Cola was like, you could get $5 for a Coca-Cola back then. A pair of 501 Levi jeans would go for $100. I mean, it's nuts because you just couldn't get that stuff. So long story short, it worked, and that's how my resume kind of became international. But more importantly, I really learned how to, no matter where the culture was or what the language was, and then I couldn't speak the language or read the street signs in any of these places, right? But it was, how do you tap into that and understand how people think in another place and another mentality, and usually at a lower socioeconomic level, and you got to make that work. Germany, in America, Staples kind of built its business on coupons. So you got a business there, and if we came to you, we would knock on the doors, like almost like Mormon two-team trying to convert you, right? But we would say, you got to come to Staples. We just opened up down the road in Port St. Lucie or wherever, and buy copy paper from us. We're cheaper. We got terrific pens. We got laptops, all this stuff. And you may not go in, and we would track that. And then we'd come back and we'd say, okay, we didn't get you the first time, but you buy a full case of copy paper at $50, we're going to give you $20 off. And if you didn't do that, then it became like, we'll throw in something else for free. Buy one, get one. And then at some point, we would just literally hand you a box of copy paper and say, please come be our customer. And that progression was tracked, and it worked very well. That's an American way of kind of like bribing somebody to get their business, right? And you can't do that. That's illegal in many other countries. You can't give things away like that. So the point is, you got to learn about the local turf that you're on and what's going to work for people's mentality. You know, what lights a fire under them or what turns them off, and you just follow that. So,
man, Tim,
the rap that a lot of Americans have in business is that we go in and it's our way or nothing else, and you can't be that way when you're doing international business. You've got to get on the ground, dig in there, guerrilla marketing, and understand what works and then execute that. So I learned very quickly, and I'm still pretty young. I had a lot of success early. You just learn that you gotta, go with the locals. You go with the locals.
Man, dude, you are actually a prime example of what I want. That's why I'm an entrepreneur now. When I was growing up, the first time I ever got on an airplane, I wanted to be the business guy with the briefcase on the suit, constantly traveling around the world. You were literally like the guy I was trying to be. I had no idea what that looked like, or what vertical that would be in, or what I would be doing. But I'm well on my way to doing that now in my own way, and
yes.
It's just fascinating. So as a parent, you were gone a lot, and that's challenging. What did it mean to you to see both your sons choose to serve?
Well, it's really a good question, and I'm not sure I have a definitive answer, but I can tell you this. I was a big military guy growing up. I had every plastic model tank or airplane or the USS Lexington aircraft carrier, whatever, that I built. So I was really into that. And then I got a lot of books. I remember Time Life published some series of World War II, and it was like 30 books. And they spoon-fed them to you, and you got them. It was like the World Book Encyclopedia of war. And I just ate that stuff up. I must have read them a million times. And when I started having kids, they liked that too. They gravitated to that. Now, see, I'm the athlete, so if they had any genes come from me, they were all pretty athletic. But the funny thing is, they chose the individual sports where I played the team stuff, like football in the fall and basketball in the winter and baseball in the spring, and I ran some track. I'm on some field or court every day of the year, pretty much. They chose tennis, golf, that kind of stuff. And then I swear to God, Adam, I bought every variation of airsoft rifle, pistol, like paintball gun, because they were living behind an abandoned golf course, which made for a terrific military exercise, whatever, right? So they're hiding in a sand trap, or they got the tall straw that they can get into, like snipers would, and behind trees. So they got really good at it. And then they're reading the books, and we're talking about it. And I had software where it was like I was big on World War II, so it was like we're over in Europe, and we're trying to deal with the King Tiger tanks and all that stuff, Battle of the Bulge, whatever. And they wanted to play that with me all the time, not really understanding what was going on. It just was soaking in, and I guess that stuck. So as soon as they could, my kid applied for West Point. Then you got to have a senator approve you, and Air Force Academy was the same way for my youngest Jack. Oldest is Tim Jr. And they made it in, and it's just it was exactly what they wanted to do. So as a parent, you kind of don't care. My philosophy is you kind of shouldn't care so much about what they're doing. Just be the best at it that you can. Apply yourself, win. And they're doing that. And I'm worried right now, naturally, because all the world is scary. It seemed like it came out of nowhere, all these things you see on the reels and whatnot. And there's 3 or 4 skirmishes that are beyond a skirmish. I mean, we're blowing shit up with hypersonic missiles and everything. And the talk of assassinating people and this and that gets ugly real fast, as you know probably. But they're in that, I'm sure, because Army Rangers get deployed, and you don't know where you're at sometimes, I suppose. But he's the kind that jumps out of the back of an airplane with the parachute, and then is behind enemy lines and goes, does a task, and then is picked up by a Navy SEAL team and run off, and he's back home for dinner, sort of thing. And I was like, I just can't
And your other son's the one flying him to do it.
Yeah, maybe, exactly, maybe. I don't want him on the same plane at the same time, right? Okay, but
look, man, I agree with you. It's scary right now. Like we've got, I was just listening to a podcast this morning. We've got, the aircraft carrier leaving the Taiwan area to go over to the Middle East and, do that bullshit. And it's like, okay, well, that's China's fucking prime opportunity to take Taiwan. Let's just say they're going to do by 2020. The world's a fucking mess right now. And it's terrifying. And this is somebody who spent the majority of his adult life at war. Oh, well, I guess not anymore. Time flies. I've been out a decade now. So, but, a large chunk of my life was spent in the Middle East fighting a war. And it is scary, man. It's terrifying. And so my last question before we move on to kind of, your transition out of the business world and doing what you're doing now with SmartBody, which I think is largely influenced by the issues that we have, from my generation, the GWOT guys, Vietnam guys, whatever, coming out of the Army. What overlap did you see between raising, your two boys to go into the military and building global businesses?
Well, again, good question. There is a correlation there. I didn't just wake up one morning and say, I want to get into hyperbaric chambers, while it is an opportunity, and I'm pretty opportunistic about things I've done. For example, I owned a piece of a factory making blank CDs when Napster was a thing. Do you remember Turn of the Century?
I was the guy. I was the young entrepreneur that had a damn CD burner. My dad was. I didn't have a computer in my house till I was a junior in high school. I've said that a bunch of times on this show. I'm the last generation that kind of grew up, all the way till about 16, 17 without portable electronics, cell phones, all that bullshit. And now I got an AI company, dude. Like it's a cool place to be, because I remember standing in the kitchen talking on the corded phone. I remember before there was answering machines and voicemail, you know what I'm saying? So, but I also
all in our lifetime, which is the amazing thing. We've had history condensed into the last 20, 30 years, and we've seen shit that like people dream of.
Yeah.
But when I was traveling, I had to have 3 cell phones back in the day. I had an Ericsson and a Nokia and a Motorola, because each continent had their own bands, and I had to go popping SIM cards in and out. And none of them had cameras on there. So to this day, people think I'm full of shit because I couldn't take any pictures of the Hong Kong harbor or the places I was at. Now it's a piece of cake, right? You got an 8 megapixel camera on your phone, and then you can send it anywhere in the world. Well, that was before all that shit.
Now you have influencers building. There's a business model I saw in LA where they built kind of just a replica of the inside of a private jet, and they charge you $200 an hour to come take Instagram photos in this cabin of a private jet. Like, okay, genius, but like also this is what the world has come to.
Right,
you know what I mean? But no, it's just it's interesting, man. So. The parallels between building a global business and raising your kids, you said they're there. What does that look like?
Well, I'll start with the bigger like summary. I'll start with the summary first. It cost me a marriage because I'm gone a lot. And you can imagine, literally, this was the first assignment was Bangkok. And from Boston, you fly to Heathrow. And sometimes you get a direct flight on in to Bangkok. Sometimes you got to go to Perth, Australia, and then double back. But you were on an airplane 22, 24 hours, okay, with some stops. And thank God they paid for me to fly first class. I mean, I was going so much that the stewardesses on British Air knew me on a first name basis. Oh, hi, Tim, how you doing? It's like, and I swear to God, my briefcase, I did the math, my briefcase got about 10 million flyer miles on it. Okay, I still have it, but that was, to your point, when that was your vision of who you wanted to be. Well, kind of me too. Seriously. And I was doing it and had a briefcase, but let me tell you something. That jet lag kicks your ass, and I was doing it every other week. So I was trying to stay plugged into my family. So I'm on Boston, which is the edge. So that's better than being here in Dallas because I'd have another 4 hours to get to some edge, either, LA or New York. And I would usually go on a Sunday night. So you go on over to London, and you got a little bit of a layover, and you go on over. So it's a long time to get there, and it's actually like 2 days forward. So you miss time somewhere on the plane. But I was on the damn plane so much I could do some strategy work and actually bill for it. So it wasn't so bad. I mean, I got now everybody's spoiled because you can plug in your laptop and get an internet signal, and you're all good, even on an Amtrak train going up and down the East Coast. Yeah. Back then, you didn't have any of that crap. So I had to really think through it. It was a challenge, but we pulled it off. And then I would go over for 2 weeks at a time and do my thing. I would try to do a month's work in 2 weeks. So you're really grinding it hard. And you're in a place where there's a lot of play going on, so you don't want to miss that. I mean, you still want to go have your beverage at night and see the local activities. But then you got to get on a plane and come back home. And when you get home, you're jet lagged as fuck. Trust me, right? Because the rule of thumb is you need 1 day for every time zone hour that you have, skipped. Well, for me, that was literally 13 or 14. I didn't even get recharged until I had to go do it again. So I got real good at sleeping on an airplane. Is the point. I could do that. But I was having the time of my life. I was building businesses. People respected me. My opinion mattered, and they worked, by the way. If they had flopped, it'd be another thing, but they worked. And so I just kept you're at the blackjack table in Vegas and you keep getting 20s and 21s. Why would you get up from the table? Yeah. You just keep letting it ride. So I did that until the point where I realized I kind of forgot what my kids looked like, and my wife didn't care for me because when I got home, she wanted me to help with dinner, clean the table, bathe the kids, read them books, put them to bed, and I'm just dragging. That's all I can do to keep my eyes open.
Well, and this is a big parallel between my deployments and trying to maintain a relationship or whatever. You're gone for a year fighting a fucking war, and then you come home, and it got so bad that we would my first 2 deployments, not so much. The last 2, there was weeks of reintegration training, teaching you how to reintegrate into your family. And I resonate with what you're saying because I've lived that. Yeah. Maybe not the same. We didn't cross so many time zones. Our travel, because it's government travel, obviously was a lot like a week.
It's rough. Yeah, it's rough.
From Iraq or Afghanistan back to the United States or whatever.
You're sitting on a piece of wood in a transport plane, right, for 15 hours or something.
Well, we they had the Ryanair flights and those shitty fucking but you're 300 people jammed in there, and of course the senior officers are the ones sitting first class. There's no, I wasn't going to sit first class, and I'm 6'3". So putting me in, 18-hour flight in, 6 inches of leg room, it's not fun, man. Not fun at all. And then, coming back from Afghanistan, stands out like me. We got trapped in Alaska for 4 days where they treated us like cattle. They wouldn't let us out of a particular part of the airport. They didn't have a place for us to stay, and the airplane was broken. They didn't feed us. They wouldn't give us any fucking food. It was like we were outcasts. It was weird. It's like we just fought a fucking war for this damn country, and you're treating us like fucking, like we've got the Black Plague or something like that. So I resonate with everything you're saying, man.
Well, and also remember that mentality you're going through and how you were treated, and that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean that's exactly why I'm doing it. And I'm not the guy that sits around and says, "Well, we're getting fucked over here." I have 2 boys that are serving, and they're in harm's way, and God forbid something happens to them. If they need hyperbaric, which is kind of the cure-all, it's kind of a cure-all. It doesn't. The cure is the wrong word. It's going to improve quality of life. It's going to make the sky more blue and the sun brighter, and you look forward to the day. It does all those things if you're in a bad space. But if I can help with that, especially I think of my boys, and okay, the VA, don't even get me started. Probably better than anybody. Your listeners have lived it. I have not, but I hear stories. I just can imagine what it's like In Tulsa, growing up, there was a VA stop around the corner. They were always standing outside in line in the heat, in the cold, to go inside and get no treatment whatsoever, no prescription. No, I can't do that. A doctor who was like the last guy out of med school in his class, blah, blah, blah. And so, no, I don't want that. If you got a few bucks, then I can help you. My trick is going to be, we just got to get nationwide is the whole thing. So
yeah. So let's perfect time. What made you leave building these global businesses and set out on your own to found SmartBody and start SmartBody? What prompted you to do this?
Well, I stopped doing the consulting, all that bouncing around like we've described, because it was wearing me out pretty good. And they asked me to come and actually relocate to a little town just outside of Amsterdam called Utrecht. There's a big university there. And it was a hell of an offer. And it would have been easier on me and my body to do what I was doing still from a European base. Schiphol is a big airport in Amsterdam. You can get anywhere you want pretty fast. The wife, I'm still married at the time, the wife just wasn't having it. She said, okay, so you're going to like upend me and send me to a foreign country, and then I won't see you even more than I do now. So I didn't get that vote. And my philosophy is you got to have 2 votes when you're married to do anything, and I didn't get the vote. So I had to tell them adios. I did it as a 1099 consulting. It was retail consulting group. So that was, goodbye. So I came back to Boston, did a little more consulting, and then got into the blank CD thing because Napster was up and coming. And if there's anything about me, I'm pretty good at spotting a trend, making sure the window is like opening with opportunity and not slamming shut on you. And so that was absolutely blank CDs. And then I knew there was a product pipeline that had to go into DVD and other things. So I was in on all of that. And it was called Prime Peripherals. And I'd be surprised if you didn't have a prime peripheral slice. I would sell them by the hundreds in the spindle. And that's probably what you were burning back in the day. Like we got the 12% market share. And I was so proud. I had 8 employees doing that in a little town called Holbrook, Massachusetts. It was a office, showroom, warehouse combo. And that was the most fun I'd had in my life. But I was still grinding it out. So that was kind of my transition out of, I did the corporate thing and then I did the consulting thing. And this is about the turn of the century, so 25 years ago. And ever since then, I've not really had a W-2 paycheck. I've been 1099, and you live and die with your abilities. You eat what you kill and all that good stuff. There's times when you're raking it in and life is terrific because you're your own boss. And I feel like going golfing today, or I'm going to go sit at the beach. And other times you're living in a buddy's closet, you're eating ramen noodle after the meal. I was like, oh shit, man, I got to come up with the next deal, So I'm not sure I would recommend it as a lifestyle, but it's the one that kind of chose me, I think. So I'm doing.
Yeah, I hear you. Where did the idea for SmartBody come?
Great question. Do you remember when 23andMe first started? I'm sitting there watching the NFL playoffs in like 2014, and you see all these 23andMe commercials, like every commercial break. So I know what that cost, and that this company, whoever they are, is spending tens of millions of dollars on a Sunday for marketing. It's crazy. And then the Super Bowl, and you didn't even really know what it was because their style was to keep it kind of nebulous and kind of quiet. Yeah. And then eventually you find out it's a cheek swab and you can learn about your genetic code and you find relatives and blah, blah, blah. I thought, okay, that's brilliant. I got to get on some of that. So SmartBody, and I got an email address that's smartbodydna.com, was exactly that. I didn't want to compete with those guys because you need scientists and you need chemistry and you need high fixed, you need a factory that can spin up that saliva and come back with it. That's way over my head, Right. But what I did was I went out and I accumulated all the people doing genetic testing because Ancestry.com had come along, and then there was some higher things that, like, you could predict if a female had a higher propensity than not to have breast cancer, or any number of things like that. So it could tell you how to live your life. It was an early warning thing. And I did pretty good with it. But at some point, they crushed you because the margins were not really there, and it cost a lot of money to market. But because I was doing it all, I've done all this stuff from like my own living room, essentially.
Well,
but that's where
SmartBody's in a lot of hot water right now too, aren't they?
They're cooked.
I don't even what's going on with that. I don't like what are they in trouble for?
Well, they had to bankrupt themselves, which they did. Somebody's come in and scooped them up, and they got all these lawsuits because people are worried what they're doing with all that DNA material, because that's the keys to the kingdom. You get somebody's chemistry like that. And they had tens of millions of people that had done business with them. Where is that stuff? Where did it get sent to? Like, who owns it? And, it's out there. So if there was a crime committed in Baltimore, Maryland, there's a big national database now of DNA, and they find people that way, right? Yeah. So you're scared that you don't want to take any risks about having your DNA anywhere except in your own body. So a lot of reasons why people are
in some hot water. So what are you doing with SmartBody? Where's it going? And let's dive right into that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm really excited about this. When you reached out to me asking me if I could help you, get eyes on what you're doing and all of this, I was
reached out. I saw you on LinkedIn, and you had just come back from Peru, or you were putting another trip together, and I thought, oh my God, this guy. We're the same guy, kind of. He's willing to do that kind of crazy shit to help his fellow man.
The taboo, the woo-woo, I really just call it the shit the government's kept secret from us for so fucking long.
There's a long list of those, right? I mean, honestly, right? Yeah. So, but I would, for the last 12 years, Adam, I have made, for lack of a better term, vitamins. Okay, so lots of multi-level marketing companies, the pyramid type, direct marketing, they get called a lot of different things. Many times they get called shitheads, but whatever.
Scams.
But the guys who come up with the ideas at the top, they call them the millionaire seats. They can make a lot of dough, but when you're way down in the pyramid, you're making dough for everybody up above you. So it gets kind of a bad rap. But there's a lot of good product come out of that stuff. And most of the time, somebody would bring something like that to me. I can look at the label on any bottle of anything, or a sack of pre-workout powder, or some collagen. I mean, take a walk through Costco or the grocery store. You flip around and look at that label. I just trained myself that I could reverse engineer that and maybe take something out or throw one other thing in so it's not a direct plagiarism, and I can make that for you. Good friend of ours, Erin Marie Whitehead, right, that I met kind of through you. Yeah. She does a lot. She's a neuro.
Yeah, she's an amazing person.
Or something. She's smart, right? Yeah. And she does things to help, and she's gonna get involved with me, I think, a little bit here on this. As somebody's getting the hyperbaric treatment, that could also be going on. But I'm helping her make a product that's a neurotropic, that's brain health. Okay, so there's 3, 4, 5 things we know is good for brain health, and all you got to do is come up with the formula, have a factory that can make it, throw 60 capsules in a bottle, and you're in the game. Get it listed on Amazon, and you're in business. So I did a lot of that. I did that for about 12 years. Some for my own stuff. SmartBody has a line of things because I discovered I was a diabetic a couple of Thanksgivings ago, and I didn't want to just listen to the propaganda about insulin, metformin, glipizide, blah, blah, blah. Take it every day, wear the thing on your tricep, and it doesn't fix anything for you. It just is a Band-Aid that helps you monitor it. Well, it costs a lot of money, and I want to live longer. So what did I do? I dove in, I looked at the right ingredients, I came up with my own product line, put them out in a focus group, and it actually does work. Your A1C goes down. Your triglycerides go down. Now, you can't go out and eat McDonald's 3 times a day as you're doing anything, but you also didn't have to shoot insulin. And it's a quality of life solution. So I started doing that. SmartBody then transitioned away from genetic testing to I got a product line. And then you start learning more about what things can we do, and then you learn, because I read a lot of white papers coming out of the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, Harvard Medical Review, that kind of stuff. I can't pronounce half the words, dude, I'll be honest with you. But they're smarter people than that. But they can be hired. Somebody's got to run the thing, right? Somebody who knows how to get a concept perfected and then can roll it out to hundreds of places, and it's possible. So think Starbucks, think Subway, think those kind of places. I think there's 21,000 Starbucks I read the other day in North America. It's like, holy shit, right?
It's wild. They're across the street from one another. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Now, based on traffic patterns, that can actually work out because I lived that for a little bit. But Quick Trip is the big convenience store down here, and you will see them shutter a store and move it diagonal on an intersection because of the way the traffic patterns changed. And now they want to cook some food inside there, and they got like fucking 100 gas pumps, like these Buc-ee's you maybe have heard of. It's just insane the way all of this stuff goes. Money is no object for that kind of thing. If you're public, they're basically using your and my money if we've invested in them. But they know what they're doing. It's very scientific. And now AI is going to make that leapfrog even faster, right, as you're into, and I probably should be into. But my point is, I evolved from just making powders and potions for people to say, what other modalities can help the human condition? I'm a diabetic. I got buddies that have PTSD. I dated a girl that's got ADHD. About drove me crazy, right? You have a relative that had a traumatic brain injury. All of those things are going on out there, and they are massive chunks of people. I count veterans with PTSD at about 19 million coming back from VA numbers and whatever. That's a combination. And they say every single person who served our country, who came back from something, has some degree of PTSD, some degree. You can't get away from it. So, okay, I'll take that as gospel. 130 million diabetics in America. That's like half of the adult American population. ADHD, there's like 8 million new cases a year because we just want to throw Ritalin or Prozac at them and call it a day. Well, that doesn't fix shit. It doesn't do a thing. Traumatic brain injury. You're in a car wreck, whatever. Yeah, all right. So there's a lot of big chunks, not to mention just people. 60% of the females that are adult in America go and work out and do cardio 3 times a week. Usually it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's like 158 million people. Okay, so do you want to go and grind it out for 2 hours at the gym, Planet Fitness or wherever you go? Or do you want to come and give me 15 minutes on a spin bike with oxygen where we can dial in that you're riding in the Rocky Mountains or you're recreating the Tour de France in the Pyrenees Mountains? And I promise you, if you can go 15 or 20 minutes, I'll buy you a steak dinner because it kicks your ass. Okay, yeah. So give me 15 minutes and come do that 3 times a week. And now you've freed up your life to also jump in a infrared sauna where you do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 20 minutes each time at 130 degrees, and your all-cause mortality just went down by 40%, 40, just because you're sitting in the damn sauna. Okay, that shit is amazing. And then if you add red light therapy and you got like Tommy John surgery or tennis elbow or whatever, it geometrically improves that kind of stuff. Then take some methylene blue, which you can actually see going through your veins with the red light on it. That's an amazing free radical killer. It's just like all of these things work in conjunction with each other. So as I'm reading all this, I say, okay, a med spa over here down the street from you might have one thing, and that's it. And then you go into Lifetime Fitness, and they got another one thing. But nobody has brought those things together where you could go into one shop and give me an hour and a half. And, for example, you would stand on a PEMF mat, and you would ground yourself, which turns your body more from acidic to more alkaline, which is a healthy place to be, right? You want that. pH neutral is 7. You want to be above 7 if you can. So grounding it with the EMF frequencies, you just stand on a mat, bare feet. It's the same thing as walking outside on grass for like 10 minutes.
I do that every day.
Do that every day. And then get some real sunlight, because D3 is like a miracle thing. It's not a vitamin, it's a hormone. So you need D3, and the only way we get it is from sunshine. Okay, and the sunshine in the morning has not got the harmful UVs. You can look right at it. Do 10 minutes of that, and then proper breathing at the same time. So you're walking in the grass, you're looking up at the sun, and you're breathing right, and you'll live longer. I mean, it's just a fact, and you'll feel better. But then what really drives the point home, and nobody's doing, is lay in a pressurized chamber, and that oxygen is being stuffed into our bodies, and therefore our red blood cells, which are depleted. And then the pressure is going to push those highly oxygen-rich red blood cells to places in our body that you can't get to right now, which mostly is the extremities. The brain, because it's got clogged up with so much shit for whatever reason. And this is why, like, my father was a diabetic, and you're out doing yard work and you cut yourself, maybe with the weed eater cord or something, right? And it won't heal because you don't have circulation, and you're not getting the cell circulation down to help with that, with that wound, and it starts to go gangrenous on you. And then the next thing you know, they want to cut off a toe. They want to cut off the foot at the ankle. They want to cut off half of your leg at the knee. And that all happened to him. Then they want to start taking fingers because you have no circulation. So what we now know, from the point in time my father died, which was, like in the 90s to now, we've learned all this stuff. Science is progressing just like the technology we talked about earlier. And somebody's got to make it out there available and not break the bank. And the soft spot for me, because I got 2 boys in the military, and so many of people that served our country, just like yourself, need high-end technology through science, through medicine, but it can't break the bank. So I'm going to be, if you've served our country, past, present, future, whatever, if you're a first responder, if you're a fireman, if you're a policeman, any of those kind of things, give me $50 and you'll get an hour's treatment. And then probably you need, that goes for like $300-400 elsewhere. So I don't care. I don't care. I want to help you, and the traction of that and word of mouth is what makes it win. You just got to have places everywhere. That's why I don't launch, because I'm not going to launch and just have one over here in Rockwell, Texas. And like, if I needed to help you, and you got to get on an airplane and we're going to go for a month, where are you going to live, all that kind of stuff. So I need to get one down the road from you so you can just pop in. I'd happily sell you one, but that's really not, you don't have to do that. If I'm everywhere, then you can just drive down and get your Starbucks, essentially get your dive, they call them, your hyperbaric treatment. It's 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. You go 3 times a week or 4 times a week at a certain level of oxygen, like 90, 92, 94. And that is all the protocol that we own. So I've got this amazing doctor, Jason Saunders, behind me. He's the foremost authority in America on hyperbaric. He's devoted his whole life to it. He's in Florida. He's got a partner that's with him on stuff. They're doing a lot with the guys in Tampa, the Special Forces guys. JSOC, forgive me.
JSOC, the SEALs.
Because Tampa's kind of the epicenter for that, I understand. So that they spend a lot of time in Tampa. Well, that's all good. There's 31,000 of those kind of soldiers. God bless them. But I want to help the other 1.2 million and guys that need help. And then I'm going to take that a step further. I'm trying to find some philanthropy, kind of like the Folds of Honor guy, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, that I know, that would have a pot of money over here. So if you had to come for treatment and you need 40 hours worth of sessions, 40 times 50 would be $2,000. I can go grab $2,000 over here, pop it in there. I'm taken care of, so my costs are covered, and you're free. Just show your ass up so we can help you. And the only thing I'm going to ask is that you talk about it. When you feel better, you'll talk about it. And by the way, I'm going to give you something to wear, and so we can measure this shit. It's don't take my word for it, and I don't want you to come out of there with like placebo effect that says, yeah, I feel better, just trying to make everyone feel good because it was paid for. I want to have tangible evidence that shows you're sleeping better, your triglycerides are down. When we get some blood work, it can pump into this software. So all of that is proof that this is working for you. I mean, we have that already.
Well, if you don't believe Tim, just look at your favorite professional athletes. They're buying hyperbaric chambers, putting them in their bedrooms, using them before they go to bed every single night. They've been doing it for decades. They've been doing this. Speaking to, I'm obsessed with getting my VO2 max as high as I possibly can, because we know the direct correlation, the higher your VO2 max is, the longer you will live.
Absolutely.
It's simple math.
And the other funny thing that came out of that is to have a strong legs, like strong thighs, and VO2 max, and then go sit in a sauna, and before you know it, you'll be 105, and everything's still working.
Look, man, I mean, you're a man of faith. The Bible, says repeatedly that we can live to 120 years old. That is my new goal, is to hit 120. I can speak, Mark over at Onlux sent me some red light therapy devices when I just had this hip surgery. I can speak to how effective they actually are. In fact, he's got one of the only wearable red light therapy devices that's approved by the FDA. Like, it's medical grade. So the shit's amazing. I've been starting to play with methylene blue myself. However, the shit's kind of expensive. I wish I could get it a little cheaper, and it really comes in smaller vials. It also tastes like shit, so prepare yourself for that. But
it's what they used to put in to make a blue sweater. I mean, for Christ's sake, who's the first person who swallowed some? I'd like to know.
Right, but Tim, thank you so much for doing this. I'm happy to put you on this platform and really talk about what you're doing. I love that you want to provide access to our nation's service members to these things that can help us overcome all the other things without throwing a bunch of fucking pills at us. What I've learned from my plant medicine experience is all the things you've talked about: mindfulness, meditation, breath work, grounding. Grounding is a big part of my day. It started right after I came back from Peru, and it happens. I'm not conscious of it. My subconscious controls that. I sit at this computer a lot, all day, every day, building this brand and doing the things that I do in the entrepreneurial world. And every hour or so, I just end up outside walking around barefoot in my grass. And I can't tell you how much of a mood improvement that is. My mornings always start with a walk shortly after the sun comes up. It's not all the way up yet. And, just getting usually an hour outside, just getting the sun through my eyes and on my skin. And it's great, man. And plus I live in a great place to do it because it's Florida. You know what I mean? Like, we got plenty of access to the sun. But tell everybody how they can reach out to SmartBody. I know in the future there's going to be some franchise opportunities, particularly looking for good quality veterans to run these things. How can they get, if they've got deep-pocketed investors to invest in your plan? I know you're currently raising money right now. Just tell people how they can reach out and get involved in helping you make this dream become reality.
Well, the website's being worked on. I do have an email address you can reach out. My initials, TW, at smartbodymedical.com is a way you could reach me. Cell phone, happy to have you call me, is 539 area code. That's a Tulsa overlay where I'm from. 222-7773. That's a way to reach me. And here's the biggest thing that you can help me with this, Adam, from your reach as you're doing these podcasts. And just if somebody might reach back to you and say, blah, blah, blah. Here's my dilemma. So when I get enough money to go crazy, right? And you've got to determine where you're going to put these. Okay, so for example, right down the street from me, I love a location. There's within a 10-mile drive time of, you put a pinpoint on the map, there's 226,000 people. It's fairly dense, and there are nice household incomes, and the value of the homes are good. Those are the things you look at to where you're going to put something. It's not out in, BF, whatever. But you need to be around where people are. And the people that have a little bit more money is good. But another metric that I capture every time is how many veterans are in that same catchment area. In this case, it's 6,296. Now, that number changes, of course, but that tells me if I need like 50 patients a month to make things go, I got a pretty good chance of filling the place up, and we'll stay open 24 hours if we need to. I don't care. The model is fluid based on what people say they need. And so, I can hire people. It's not hard to run these things. You get in and out. You can do. It's like turning the tables at a restaurant. You serve more food, you feed more people. But the biggest question is, where do I put the next one and the next one and the next one? Like, I want to go where the need is. And if that were Pensacola, Florida, because a lot of guys have raised their hand, and I think there's a big Air Force base there or whatever. Outside of St. Louis is a massive Air Force base. If it's Fort Bragg, so be it. But I just don't know where these clusters of folks are that might want to use this. And so I would take some intelligence coming back my way to say, you have got to be in, Decatur, Georgia. You've got to be in Charleston, South Carolina. You've got to be in Portland, Maine. I wouldn't know why. I hear that Wyoming's a hot spot for guys to go and like hang out. I don't know why. It's God's country. But I just want to be where the need is. And it's not expensive to open up a store. I could when I get funded, I could probably do 100, bam. Because all you do is buy a couple of chambers and put them in a room, and you hire somebody to run them.
Yeah, this is a unique opportunity for some of you who want access to this to influence where these places will be, because if one thing I've learned about Tim, he will make this happen. Just in the 3 or 4 months that I've known him, I see the progress. He updates me on the progress. Started this show off in the green room telling me, hey, I may have to look at my phone because I've got investors on the hook right now. So he is going to make this happen, and you have a unique opportunity now to reach out to Tim and let him know where you want these things. I'm here in Florida. Florida's going to be a great state for you. I think you're probably going to have 15 or 20 fucking locations here. Texas is another great location. But, what are those places that we're missing? Like you said, the Montanas, the Wyomings, the Oregons, where do these places need to be? And this is your unique opportunity to influence and be a part of this. Maybe even end up owning your own and changing your stars in the direction you go in life. Tim, thank you so much for your time, brother. Thanks for being here. Thanks for reaching out to me and letting me be, a voice for what you're doing with this. As somebody who I'm obsessed with biohacking, man. I'm not the greatest at it. I still have my flaws, but I see the unique opportunity here, and I'll be a customer for sure, 100%, man.
Well, God bless you, Adam. I gravitated to you when I first saw you on LinkedIn. We hit it off, and I love what you're doing. You are making it happen, and I appreciate this platform. Maybe we'll do it again, and I can update. I don't know.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
I am resolved to do this. I hope it's the last thing I ever do in the time that the good Lord gives me. But I can help a lot of folks this way, and it's not expensive. You see, it's not pills, it's not stuff, it's not insurance based, it's cash. And this will work. This is a big deal. It's the biggest deal I've come across.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Tim Wofford from SmartBody Medical. Please like, rate, review, share this with the entire veteran community, your networks, and let's help Tim help as many people as he possibly can. Until next week, we'll talk to you guys later. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.